from the American Academy of Pediatrics.
When you think of helmets, especially in kids and teens, you think of bike helmets. But as it turns out, it's not just while riding a bike that kids need a helmet. Let's do it. So let's start with scooters.
Yes, helmet.
Love it. Skateboards.
Yes, helmet.
Hoverboards.
Yes, always a helmet.
Always a helmet. Rollerblades.
Definitely a helmet.
E-scooters.
Always a helmet.
Welcome to Healthy Children, the podcast for parents from the American Academy of Pediatrics. I'm Dr. Edith Bracho Sanchez. I am a pediatrician and a mama figuring it out. This is a judgment-free space where all questions are good questions, and the answers will hopefully be even better. Let's get started. Today, we're talking all about helmets because there's really so much more to know than I once realized. To do so, I have with me Dr. Manisha Agarwal. She is an associate professor in pediatrics and emergency medicine at Emory University School of Medicine and an attending physician in pediatric emergency medicine at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Welcome, Manisha.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
You know, Manisha, I just realized that the one thing I didn't mention about you when I introduced you just now is that you are also a mom of 3.
Yes.
You are speaking from experience. You have a baby in the house right now. Congratulations, and let's do this.
Thank you so much.
Manisha, when you think of helmets, as I mentioned, you always think of biking. But break down for us, when are kids at highest risk? And maybe tell us about some of the activities that may put them at the most risk.
So kids are at risk of falling and bonking their heads whenever they're getting on any sort of a wheeled item or thing that goes. So we always think about bicycles, but we also have to think about other things like scooters and skateboards and rollerblades, even things like ice skating. And I'm down here in Atlanta and it's super duper hot here, but we also have to think about helmets when we are skiing and snowboarding. And we can't forget the importance of helmets when we're doing things like equestrian sports as well.
So anything that goes, I like the way you said that. A thing that goes is a thing that requires a helmet. Now, what exactly is the risk that we're talking about here? Is the fear a traumatic brain injury? And is that what we're trying to avoid?
So we are primarily trying to avoid a traumatic brain injury, which could be relatively mild, but could also be quite severe. Helmets can actually also be protective against fractures, so broken bones, as well as lacerations. So a helmet can do more than just protect your brain. It can protect your skull and your child's beautiful, beautiful face.
Their beautiful face, which, I mean, when you become a parent, there's kind of no avoiding it at some point or other. They're going to, bump into something, fall off of something, but as best we can, definitely protecting that beautiful face. Manisha, tell me a little bit about sports, because I don't often, I guess I think about football, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the need for a helmet. But talk to us about the recommendations when it comes to a variety of different sports.
So when it comes to sports, helmets are also important in protecting your child's brain. So when they're playing sports like football and lacrosse, it's really important to make sure your child is wearing an appropriately fitted helmet in those instances. And there's even forthcoming research on specific ear gear to potentially reduce the risk of concussion in other sports, such as soccer.
Fascinating. So for now, we're talking about football, we're talking about lacrosse, and upcoming perhaps soccer, but not yet.
Not enough evidence there yet, but maybe someday in the future, we'll have some evidence and some really cool ways to help protect kids in that sport as well.
I love it. All right. So let's just really quickly run through the list because we've mentioned a bunch of different things. So I'll just throw it out there and you tell me yes or no, kids need a helmet. Sounds good?
Sounds great.
Let's do it. So let's start with scooters.
Yes, helmet.
Love it. Skateboards.
Yes, helmet.
Hoverboards.
Yes, always a helmet.
Always a helmet. Rollerblades.
Definitely a helmet.
E-scooters.
Always a helmet.
Bikes.
Always a helmet.
Snowboarding and skiing.
Always a helmet as well.
Yay! What about horseback riding?
Yes, please wear a helmet.
Now, what about wrestling?
I can't really speak about wrestling. I think there's some protective gear we talk about, but not typically your traditional helmet.
All right, love it. Check with your pediatrician and your coach. What about go-karts? Is that a thing?
So we don't have formal recommendations, but common sense would say, yes, a helmet.
Love it. And what about figure skating?
So figure skating isn't really counted in any of the guidelines. I think if you're practicing something new, common sense would say before you practice that triple axel, wear a helmet. But once you've got it mastered, you probably want it to come off because I don't know how the judges will think about that.
I love it. So as you're learning and practicing new moves, now I'm glad I asked you that question. Maybe I'm thinking figure skating still from the Olympics. Manisha, now that we've talked about when to wear a helmet, talk to us a little bit about what to look for in a helmet. What do you look for as a pediatric emergency doctor, but also as a mom?
So first thing I'm looking for is this helmet certified by the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, aka the US CPSC. If it is certified by this group, you know that it is a quality helmet that meets specific technical guidelines. There are a lot of wannabes out there on the internet, so you have to be careful. Additionally, I'm looking at what this helmet is made for. So as much as my daughter might like her bicycle helmet, that is not the right helmet for her to be wearing when we try to go skiing. So you need to make sure the helmet is appropriate for the sport. And then finally, I'm looking at that fit. So it doesn't matter how darn cute the helmet is and how much my child begs me for that helmet. If it does not fit them properly, it is a complete no-go. It has to fit properly so it can do its job.
Oh, Manisha, as you're going through the list and I'm thinking about my own child who scoots to school, I don't know that I checked all these things for my own child's helmet, and I will be looking when he comes home this evening. Tell me a little bit more about the fit, though, because I sort of looked for a helmet that was for toddlers his age, and then it looked good. I don't know. What else am I looking for, Manisha?
So you want to make sure that when the helmet fits, it does a couple of different things. First of all, the brim of the helmet should only fit about 2 finger breadths above your child's eyebrow, such that when your child is kind of looking up with their eyes, they can barely see the brim of their helmet. Secondly, you want to make sure that the straps of the helmet make a Y with one strap in front of the ear and one strap behind the ear. Third, you want to make sure that you're able to adjust the chin strap appropriately. And so that means your chin strap should be tugged against the chin. So if your child opens their mouth as wide as they can to sing as loud as they can, it starts giving them some resistance on the chin. Another way to test is you should only be able to fit 1 or 2 finger breadths between the child's chin and the chin strap. You want to make sure that you can adjust the padding for a snug fit. And then my final fit test check for my child, once I've put their helmet on, I've tightened things up, is I make them do a silly dance. And if that helmet does not wiggle and they are able to dance their hearts out and it doesn't go anywhere, then I know we're good. And if it wiggles, then we start over. Maybe we need to adjust some padding. Maybe we need to adjust the hairstyle a little bit. Maybe it's time for a different helmet.
I love this. I will be doing all of these things to check my child's fit when he comes home this evening, including the silly dance, because he is a big fan of them dances.
Yes, the silly dance is key. It is the best way to check your child's helmet for sure. And it works even better if you do the silly dance with them.
I love that, Manisha. Now, tell me a little bit about getting kids to actually wear the helmets, right? Because we're talking, I'm thinking of my toddler, kids who are still young who are even willing to do the silly dance with us, right? And that is a specific age category. But as kids get older and we're starting to get into those tween and teen years, they may start to resist wearing a helmet. What is your advice there on getting them to wear it?
So you really have to think about the child in front of you and who they are. There are so many different strategies. One strategy is making sure you pick out a helmet that your child loves. And that could be getting a helmet of their favorite character of the day or helping them decorate it with stickers. It could also mean maybe getting them a helmet that looks quote unquote cool to them, whatever it might be. As a teen gets older, though, things that I sometimes use with the older population is one, I remind them that a properly fitting helmet reduces the risk of facial fractures and lacerations. And, some of these kids are so obsessed with various forms of social media and looking as beautiful as possible with their very extensive skincare routines that sometimes that seems to resonate a little bit more with them than protecting their brain. The other thing that I like to leverage, especially when you have kids who have, that cell phone in their hand that they cannot put down to save their life, I kind of point out that your cell phone has a case on it to protect it. So think about a helmet as a case to protect your personal cell phone, AKA your brain, right? And here's the thing, you can go buy a brand new cell phone. I mean, you might have to save or, convince mom and dad, but you can't exactly go out there and buy a brand new brain. The one you've got is the one you're stuck with for your whole life.
It's funny you say that the one you have is the one you're stuck with for your whole life. I use that phrase to talk about really caring for your body in general. So it really, really, is an extension caring for your brain and realizing that this is it. This is all you have. And using those things that teens care about. If it's their phone, it's their phone. If it's their face, it's their face. To incorporate them in the discussion and commit to wearing a helmet. I love that, Manisha. When I became a mom personally, I realized I have to pay attention to all the specifications of the different products. Car seat is one, right? My child outgrew his car seat when he got a little too heavy and a little too tall kind of thing, which is what we want all kids to do. Does the same thing apply for helmets? I can imagine it can become pretty obvious at times, right? Like it doesn't fit anymore. But is there anything else we need to be thinking about when it comes to replacing those helmets?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, the very cute helmet my daughter got when she was a toddler does not do the job now. One, in part because she's grown, but two, helmets actually go bad. They expire. The shelf life of most helmets is about 5 years, and it's kind of like how car seats expire. Those internal foam components that are meant to absorb the forces or the energy if you are in a car crash or if you fall off your bike, they start to degrade over time. So they're not going to do their job. And similarly, just like if you're in a car crash and you need to replace your child's car seat because all of that foam has done its job and protected your child, it's the same thing with a bike helmet. So if your child has had a major, major fall off of their bike and they have really damaged that helmet, you're going to need to replace it in that situation as well.
Such a good reminder. Now, I do also want to ask you about equity. Are helmets designed to fit some kids more than others, Manisha?
So there isn't great research on this, but I think the answer is yes. And it really, to me, comes down to considerations around hairstyles, right? So we know some kids might have certain hairstyles, like really gorgeous, beautiful dreads or braids or what have you. And there really hasn't been a lot of work in coming up with helmets that appropriately accommodate these beautiful different hairstyles. There is this mom in Canada who comes from a Sikh background. And so people of the Sikh background, as part of their beliefs, do not cut their hair, and the boys often sport buns on the top of their head that are covered by turbans. But again, that's not accommodated by the majority of helmets out there. So she actually took it upon herself to engineer and develop helmets that accommodate children of that background who might have a different hairstyle. So I think that's the longer answer. The short answer is yes, there are inequities in helmet design that I really hope anyone who might be an engineer or have passion for this might take this on as a personal charge to address.
That makes total sense to me, Manisha. And I guess my follow-up question is it really just about the engineering? How do we make sure that down the line we're really incorporating these and marketing them and approving them, right? As we look for those approvals and helmets, like how do we make sure the whole chain is set up to get these helmets to kids who may have different backgrounds or different hairstyles?
Ooh, that's really hard. And I'm not sure how we make sure that this happens. I think first, raising awareness And highlighting this as an issue that needs to be addressed is the first step. And then hopefully some advocacy groups will get to partner with some brilliant engineers to actually design and bring forth items that address this issue.
Yes. Here's to hoping that happens. Now everyone listening knows that this is an issue and can help us create that awareness and get started on the advocacy. Manisha, we like to close our episodes with what we call a parenting prescription. When it comes to helmets, what is one thing you want all our listeners to know?
So I want our listeners to know to always make sure their child wears an appropriately fitting helmet. Make sure it fits appropriately. And don't forget, you are setting an example for your child. So if you are on a bike, you wear a helmet too.
They really, really look to us and we need to model that behavior. Thank you so much, Dr. Manisha Agarwal, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you at home for joining us. If you like the Healthy Children podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app and help us spread the word. Follow Healthy Children on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Healthy Children AAP, and be sure to visit healthychildren.org, the parenting website of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Healthy Children is a production of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Our creative team includes
Ann Johnsos,
Doug Nagel,
Susan Stevens Martin,
Laura Alessio,
Jackie Ortega,
Mary Claire Walsh,
Hannah Weston,
Kathy Jewell,
Catherine Beard,
and Garrett Brown.
And our theme music was composed by Doug Nagel. We'll be back next week. I'm Dr. Edith Bracho Sanchez. Thanks for listening.